Welcome back to another exciting edition of Drawing Force Diagrams. And of course, since I'm your host, it will be with comic book characters. So here we have Blue Boy himself, the Man of Steel, in one of his most famous roles, where he's holding up a car. So here's my car. If you don't trust me on that, it's a car. And this is from one of the New 52 comic book covers. So we're going to draw a more advanced force diagram. So if you saw the basic one, this is a bit more advanced one. In fact, this is like the hardest thing I could ever possibly throw at a student. So we're going to kind of walk through it the exact same ways that we did the other one. So first step is I'm going to choose my system, and I'm going to choose Superman. So there's Superman. We're going to choose Superman, and then I'm going to try and identify all of the forces that are acting on him. So let's bust out green. So here he's in contact with the ground. Here he's in contact with the car, and as usual he has gravity acting on him. So I've got two contact forces and one non-contact force. Let's see how it pans out. So just to make this as authentic as possible, I'm going to draw it as real as I can. So we've got Superman. Actually, since I know what's going to happen, I really should draw somewhere else. So let's try it again. We've got Superman over here. And Superman's at an angle. So I'll draw him on an angle. So we're on an inclined plane. All right. And if we look, the ground is going to push up on him. So that's my force normal. And then gravity is going to pull straight down. So that's the force of gravity. And then we also have the car. The car is pushing straight down on him as well. So we've got another force normal. All right. So these are the fundamental forces, and I know I haven't used on by notation. Don't yell at me just yet, because this is like my first sketch, and I'm going to make it to look a lot prettier. All right, so now, since those are all the forces acting on him, then we basically have to break them down because we have the dreaded angles. Notice we have angled force and angled force. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my coordinate system. So I'm going to make this the x-plane and this the y-plane. So that way left and right is my x and up and down is my y. So it's a bit shifted. It's not exactly what it used to be. So I'm going to rotate this into my normal plane here, so it looks a little more familiar. So again, X, Y. And so now I've got Superman. And if I rotate the forces with me, then I have the normal force is now going up. And then I have this normal force is going down at that angle, and gravity is also going down at this angle as well. So for every force that's at an angle, we have to break it up into its components, because we can only deal with forces when they're either in purely the x-plane or purely the y-plane. We can't deal with them when they're in some combination of the two. So I'm going to break them up into their independent components. Let's go for blue for him. Yeah, we'll go with that. No, I don't like that blue. I don't like that blue. I like that blue. Okay. So for the force of gravity, really, we've got our y component of the force of gravity in the y plane. And then for the normal force, we also have a force of normal in the y plane. All right. And then we have the x plane. So let's get a different color for the x plane. Oh, look at that, make it kind of Superman colored here. So force of gravity in the x-plane, and then we'd have force normal in the x-plane. So we're breaking up our angled forces into their individual components. Once I've done this, now I can draw like the final copy. So that's why I wanted to leave myself some space, because there's going to be some room here. So Superman, this would be the force diagram on Superman. And I would have the different components now. So I'm going to take the normal force, that's the only one pushing up. So I've got force normal on Superman by the ground. And then I've got two downwards forces here. So I've got the force normal on Superman by the car, because like I said, whether or not you believe me, if you read enough comic books, you know this is a car. All right? Very famous pose. And so then this is the force normal in the Y plane. So I usually put a little subscript there. And then this here is the force normal. Oh my gosh, it's the force of gravity. I wasn't paying attention. Force of gravity in the Y plane on Superman by the Earth. And then if I look at my forces, I've got a normal force pointing this way. Force normal on Superman. And this would be the force normal in the X-plane. Should put a little X here. By the car. And then I have another force in the X-plane over here. So force of gravity in the X-plane on Superman by Earth. And then that's all the forces. So then I can go into my analysis. Now, while doing this, I realized, I was like, wait, I forgot one. Okay? Maybe you can figure out which one I forgot, too. You're probably yelling at me right now from home. You're like, what are you doing? You forgot about a force. Well, the next step is you got to figure out what's your motion. So if you look at this, this is a total static system. So I'm thinking that the entire system has no acceleration. So therefore, the entire system just has constant velocity. So that means that all of my forces must be balanced. So if I look in my Y-plane, that means that this force, what just happened? No, computer, stop thinking. What'd you do? What did you do? No, go back, come back. God, I hate computers. My normal force is balanced out with both of these combined. These two are working together to balance that out. And then I'd be like, well, I have to have balanced forces in the X-plane. I'd be like, oh, wait, that's not possible. So I may have drawn one the other way, but I realized I forgot friction. So let's draw friction back in my original. See, this is possible. It may happen. So everything's going to be pushing him down. That's the way it wants to push him. So friction has to work against that. So this is where friction would have to be. So when I rotated that, I should have the force of friction over here. And so then friction must show up over here. So I'd have force of friction on Superman by the ground. And then that, my friends, would be able to balance out. So then this would balance out with those two. And so now I've got a system that is totally balanced out. All the forces were broken up from their angles into their components. And we were happy. And this is why I like using the box, because if I ever draw a force diagram and I realize, oh, I have an angle, and it's not exactly at a right angle to my box, then I know I need to break it up into X and Y components. All right? So I hope you enjoyed drawing a very exciting force diagram and probably harassing me along the way because, well, I forgot a force and I earned it. So, talk to you guys next time.